If you look at the protocols used by sports scientists and professional bodybuilding coaches, you will see a surprisingly consistent list of the 10 most effective exercises for leg hypertrophy. But treating this consensus list as a simple checklist to be finished in one afternoon is a mistake that usually leads to overtraining and stagnant lists. Effective lower body training requires balancing two competing forces: systemic fatigue, which drains your entire body, and local muscle exhaustion, which is the specific damage we want to inflict on the quads and hamstrings. This diagram shows the requirements for growth: mechanical tension to signal the muscle, high stability to produce maximum force, and full range of motion to recruit every fiber. When these elements overlap at this intersection, you create the most efficient environment for hypertrophy. For most lifters, the limiting factor isn't actually the leg muscles reaching failure. The set usually ends because the lower back is exhausted or the cardiovascular system can't keep up with the oxygen demand. Building massive legs requires moving past the simple memorization of a top 10 list. Success comes from strategically budgeting your energy across movement categories to bypass your body's specific bottlenecks. This matrix categorizes the top 10 movements by their physical cost. First are the systemic compounds, the barbell back squat and the Romanian deadlift. The back squat is a massive stimulus for the lower body, provided you break parallel. Sinking into that deep knee flexion is what forces the quads and glutes to handle the brunt of the weight. The trade-off is the toll on your central nervous system. Because the spine must support the load, your lower back often fatigues and ends the set before your quads have reached their true limit. We see a similar demand in the Romanian deadlift. By hinging at the hips with fixed knees, you shift the load onto the posterior chain. This creates stretch-mediated hypertrophy, loading the hamstring at its longest, most vulnerable point. However, the RDL is technically demanding and systemically taxing. One slip and form under a heavy load can easily lead to a lumbar injury. While systemic compounds build strength, relying on them alone often leads to a plateau. Your nervous system will likely burn out before your legs are fully exhausted. The second category, the unilateral stabilizers, features the Bulgarian split squat and walking lunges. Loading a split squat with heavy dumbbells targets the lead leg while removing the spine. This allows you to bypass a tired lower back to keep training the quads. Reaching true failure on a split squat is a miserable experience. The physical demand often results in significant systemic nausea. The challenge here is that your grip or balance might give out before the leg does. Walking lunges take this further by moving through multiple planes, demanding constant stabilization. This creates the metabolic burn while improving proprioception, your awareness of position in space. However, the instability of lunges means you cannot use the same absolute weight as a squat, which limits the total mechanical tension you can generate. Unilateral stabilizers solve the problem of asymmetrical growth and allow for intense training even when the spine is too fatigued for barbell work. Finally, we have high-stability machines: hack squats, leg presses, extensions, purls, and calf raises. Machines like the hack squat or leg press brace your back, allowing you to push your quads to absolute failure without a spotter or the fear of collapsing under a bar. The trade-off is that these machines lock you into a fixed path and do not engage your core stabilizer muscles. We can see this mechanical efficiency clearly by comparing the seated leg curl to the lying version. The seated version is more effective because flexing the hips stretches the hamstrings. Training a muscle at this longer length optimizes growth. Even though the leg curl is the better choice for knee flexion, you still need to pair it with a hip hinge movement, like the RDL, for total hamstring development. Machine isolators allow you to push localized muscle fibers to failure without being held back by a tired nervous system. This decision tree helps you apply these categories to your specific goals. Your routine should be determined by your primary training constraint. The time-poor optimizer path is for those with less than 3 hours a week to spend in the gym. This routine focuses on just 4 weekly sets per muscle group, utilizing heavy bilateral compounds like squats and RDLs to get the most work done in the least amount of time. You gain strength and efficiency, but you sacrifice the specific, localized aesthetic detail that isolation work provides. The high-fatigue hard gainer path is for those whose lower back or recovery capacity is a constant bottleneck. In this strategy, you drop heavy barbell squats entirely. You prioritize braced machines and unilateral movements instead. You can train to absolute failure without your spine being the limiting factor, though unilateral setups will make your workouts longer. The hypertrophy purist path is for those seeking the maximum possible muscle mass. This approach splits the 10 exercises across 2 dedicated days, one day for quads and one for hamstrings, ensuring you hit every muscle at both its shortest and longest positions. This requires high weekly volume and a serious commitment to the discomfort of high-rep isolation sets. Regardless of your path, the final rule is non-negotiable. You must prioritize a full range of motion over the weight on the bar. A sustainable leg program functions as an ecosystem, adjusting the top exercises to fit your specific recovery limits and physical constraints.